Our coronavirus update. Here are the numbers. 1.8 million, up from 1.6 million confirmed cases worldwide. Deaths worldwide, 114,000, up from 96,000. Total confirmed recovered, up about 80,000. The United States has 560,000 confirmed cases and 22,000 deaths. That's quite a jump. About 100,000 confirmed cases since Friday, and a jump of about 6,000 on Friday as well. The U.S. now leads the world in both cases and deaths from COVID-19. We now account for 30% of all confirmed cases, 20% of confirmed deaths globally. For the first time in all of U.S. history, all 50 states are now declared disaster zones. This is why everything is overwhelmed. This has never happened before. Should we cue the fat lady on the free market system? The U.S. Federal Reserve is now purchasing approximately $625 billion per week in U.S. Treasury bonds, U.S. municipal bonds, and corporate bonds. So they're buying stocks, your city, and they're buying Treasury bonds. $625 billion per week, $1.2 trillion every 2 weeks. I don't know. Sounds like a problem. At that rate of spend, the Federal Reserve will own all outstanding U.S. public debt, federal and local debt, by September or October of this year. Let me say that again. The Federal Reserve will own all outstanding U.S. public debt, federal and local debt, by September of this year. It will own all U.S. private and corporate debt by December. The Federal Reserve is already, now, today, the largest single U.S. government bonds of $20 trillion in outstanding U.S. debt. The Federal Reserve owns approximately $5.7 trillion and is now adding $1 trillion in new bond purchases every 2 weeks. This comes as the Bank of England skips the bond market entirely and is just printing new currency to fund UK expenditures directly. This is modern monetary theory. You don't have to have a way to pay for it. You just print it. As of this week, the Fed's Open Market Committee meeting, the Fed will also be willing to purchase so-called junk bonds from all U.S. companies that are in distress. The Fed has also issued a new fund to buy U.S. mortgage assets from banks, pledging $200 billion to U.S. banks plus Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac to buy distressed mortgages that become insolvent due to COVID-19. The U.S. Federal Reserve is now officially the largest landowner in the world. Again, let me say that. The U.S. Federal Reserve is now officially the largest landowner in the world. At this point, the only major asset in U.S. equity markets the Fed is not directly buying are U.S. stocks. However, that's on the way. Deutsche Bank said last week, because of what the Fed is doing, they're quoting, "is no such thing as a free market anymore," end quote. By the way, just a note on this, it is you, the U.S. taxpayer, responsible for all of this debt, not the Fed. The Treasury, using the Exchange Stabilization Fund, will make an equity investment in each Fed fund and is in the first lost position, making you, the taxpayer, responsible should any of these investments or underlying funds fail. As such, the U.S. Treasury, not the Fed, is actually buying all of these securities and backstopping all of these loans. The Fed is only acting as a banker and providing that financing. You say we don't need to open up the economy? Just think about that. The U.S. could face rolling lockdowns and social distancing orders for 18 to 24 months. This according to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Without an effective therapy or vaccine, the U.S. economy could face 18 months of rolling shutdowns as the outbreak recedes locally and then flares up again. Hunt for a vaccine continues. A year, according to scientists, a year would be a miracle. Kentucky churchgoers are not alone. They were met with nails in the road and surveillance of license plates because the mayor decided there wasn't going to be any church services anywhere in Kentucky. That's the governor, I should say, not the mayor. He urged residents to remain indoors for the Easter holiday, and they are enforcing with state troopers and county sheriffs. The mayor of Louisville also came out and had draconian measures. The DOJ to states' First Amendment is still the First Amendment. A federal judge ruled that this weekend, and Attorney General William Barr indicated the DOJ is monitoring state and local government actions related to limitations on religious services and will potentially prosecute local officials if they violate the civil rights of religious people. Are our oil wars over? Maybe, maybe not, because of Mexico. And is democracy the ultimate COVID-19 victim? France and Bolivia have postponed elections now. Peru has handed its president broad new legislative authority. Israel sharply ramped up the reach of its surveillance state. The U.S., we're curtailing religious services and searching for out-of-staters door-to-door states. While leaders around the world are fighting the spread of the coronavirus, they're also amassing sweeping new powers. As legislatures limit or suspend activities in the name of social distancing, many of the norms that define our free market and our democracy, elections, deliberation, debate, checks, and balances, have all been put on indefinite hold. The speed and breadth of the transformation is unsettling to political scientists all over the world, government watchdogs, and rights groups. Many concede emergency declarations and streamlining government decision-making are necessary responses to the global threat, but they question how readily leaders are going to give these powers up. We've all put our economies on hold. Can we have an open debate on when we bring those back? We've also put democracy on hold. Are we going to talk about bringing those things back as well? Also, the cost of COVID-19 Phase 1 and 2 bailout. NASA's budget for the next 207 years. The cost of the $4.7 trillion bailout package equates to NASA's $22.6 billion that they get every year for the next 207 years. The cost of the bailout, put in other words, is equal to fully funding 6 Mars landers, rovers, missions to the red planet every single day. Just the phase 2 of the deal, $2 trillion, is $7,500 per American, or $16,500 per taxpayer, seeing that only half of our citizens pay taxes. No word yet on why it costs $7,500 in actual taxpayer cost for each American to receive a $1,200 stimulus check. We don't know.